welcome back to part 2 of episode 11 of I Think You Think. You can find part 1 most likely wherever you found this one, or if you're having trouble, you can find a link to the whole playlist in the underbar. So without further ado, topic 2. And our second topic, we kind of wanted to talk about the State of the Union as it just took place a couple of days ago, but neither James or I had an opportunity to listen to it in its entirety. Mostly because I'm lazy and James had to work.
Yes, for excessive hours.
But me, I've been off for the last 2 days, and I have no excuses other than the fact that I've been playing the crap out of Halo 4. So
If it was Borderlands 2, I might understand, or Red Dead Redemption, I'd get it. But
because this is why. Halo 4, they came up with this brilliant idea where your character levels up, and as you level up, you get to unlock more weapons and things that you can use in multiplayer online and use within the Spartan Ops and things like that. And so gone are the days where when you go into a multiplayer like Slayer mission, where you have to kill everybody else who's there. Where you're like, here's your assault rifle and your pistol, go have fun, and then you just get your ass handed to you because the people you're playing against know where all the weapons are because they play more often than you do, and so they go get the good weapons and then just kill you, and then you're stuck
right,
with the assault rifle and the pistol, and you're like, I hate this game and I never want to play it again. But with this one, like, you can start the game with like a DMR or a battle rifle or the Covenant carbine or something like that, and you're like, sweet, these are the weapons that I would have gotten in the first place if I knew where they were. And so, like, I actually do relatively decent. And just as a clarification, relatively decent for me is one death for each one of my kills. So I get to kill one person and then I get to die. And that's about as good as I am.
right.
But at least I feel like I accomplished something.
It's true. It's good, but that is not our second subject, as much as it would be fun.
It's not. So we were going to talk about the State of the Union, but we didn't listen to it. But there was one thing in particular that I had heard on there had to do with um, minimum wage and Obama. I should say President Obama. I always go back and forth just because, like, I feel like if I just say Obama, it's disrespectful. But if I say President Obama, then it's a mouthful. Um, I didn't like Bush, but I'd call him Bush or President Bush too. So either way. Anyway, Obama said he wants to raise the minimum wage up to $9 an hour. I didn't catch as to how long it would take to raise it up to that point. We're at about 8.25, I believe, an hour nationally.
That's what it is in Illinois, at least. I know that for sure.
That's what it is in Illinois, but I think it's in the $8 range for all of the nation as a minimum. But Illinois is definitely 8.25. But our governor wants to raise it up to, I had heard, $10 an hour, and this is what's shocking, by 2014, which obviously is not that far away. Now, even if he did it at the end of 2014, to raise it up by like $1.75 in less than 2 years, that's a lot of minimum wage increase. But I'm always kind of torn on the minimum wage thing. The last time I really talked a lot about it was when I was like a teenager, and the minimum wage was more important to me because that's pretty much what I was getting paid. I was working at McDonald's. I was making minimum wage, and so it was more important to me what the minimum wages were. And so, but now, I don't make the minimum wage. I make more than that. And so I don't really ever think about it. However, I would imagine that there are some people out there who are near the minimum wage that are making $9, $10, $11 an hour. And I would imagine that most companies, if the government raised the minimum wage, they would not subsequently, the companies, also raise the wages of those who were making more than minimum wage already. They
Right.
say all the minimum wage employees are now making $9 an hour as per the government rules, but they'll get this guy who's been making 905, who's been with the company for 3 years and has worked his way up to 905 or whatever. they're going to stay at 905 because that's more than the minimum wage. Now, I'm not saying every company would do that, but I would imagine that would be the kind of way most companies would go.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you look at it from the perspective of someone who is presently making somewhere between 8.25 and $10 an hour. Like if you started at 8.25 when that became the minimum wage and managed to work your way up to $10 an hour, and then someone else comes in right after this rule goes into effect and starts at $10 an hour, and you're still at $10 an hour, that could definitely be frustrating. As far as employers go, though, I know, everybody's sort of scraping and clawing to try to figure out healthcare and things like that, and how that's really going to affect businesses moving forward, and trying to stay within, excuse me, that nice little niche where you don't have to worry about it, because there's some areas of employment where you don't have to really worry about it, I guess. I don't really know a lot about it, so I could be talking out of my tuchus because I have no credentials. But you combine those together, and the bottom line, and this is already happening, is businesses are um, trying to maintain a good profit margin in a tough economy. Is Yeah, sure, people will make $10 an hour now, but now they're going to have less people working trying to do the same amount of work, where they're already playing that game. Maybe not all companies, but a lot of companies. They're already playing that game where they're trying to, you know, squeeze every drop out of their employees, which, yes, you should work hard for your money. It's the way of the world. It's what we do. You get paid to do your job, go and do it like an adult. And you put your best foot forward and you work hard, and you will reap the benefits. And if not, then you need to find a company that's going to appreciate the hard work you put in. But in the long run, it's just going to in the short term, it's going to put more pressure on businesses. In the long term, it does put more money into the hands of individuals, which eventually, is going to get spent, especially if you're talking about, you know, people who are actually going to earn minimum wage, which is, young people, entry level people in general, people that have no skills, or people that can't hold down a job, so they can't really build a resume, and they're just bouncing from entry level to entry level. You know what I mean? So, my general thought is that the majority of those people, 51 plus percent, are probably going to spend their money. Most high school and, age and, young 20s are, are money spenders. It's not to say that there aren't frugal ones out there and that they're spending every dime they have, but they're more likely to, buy fast food on a more regular basis and, just sort of spend at restaurants, spend retail, things like that. And more money, flowing through the economy is always a good thing, especially when it's like legitimate like that. I'm working and making the money, and then I'm spending it at this retail establishment. That's, good money flow. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a cut and dry, this is a positive, you know, result. And it's probably really easy for me to say that since I am not working for minimum wage. If I was working for minimum wage, I would probably be thrilled to know that I was getting a $1.75 raise in 2014. If it goes through.
Right, right. And there was kind of two thoughts that I was kind of trying to work out. I was talking with a friend of mine. One of the things that I had never really thought about, but um, if you increase the hourly rate of employees and assume that they maintain the same amount of hours, then that increases their income, obviously, and that income at a higher income means that increases the taxes that a state or a federal government can take in. And so one of the things he was saying is it's a way for a government body to take in more taxes without specifically taxing the companies. So it's on the backs of the companies that are doing it by saying, you need to pay your employees more, and then by the employees being paid more, they pay more in taxes, and that increases the income for the government body. Uh, while I think that that's potentially true, it kind of is determined by the fact that the employees would stay working at the same amount of hours and not have their hours cut to account for their increase in pay. Which, if they're full time, which um, a lot of minimum wage employees are not full time, they're just under full time, so that they
Right.
a lot of companies do this. This is just the way they do business for good or bad. This is what they do. They keep them just under full time so that they don't have to provide them with benefits a lot of times, and so that they can fluctuate their hours and not face any kind of legal ramifications for doing so.
Right.
Uh, the one thing that I was thinking is because another thing that was brought up was if you increase minimum wage, and this was something I was taught since I was younger, and we used to talk about this a lot more. If you increase minimum wage, what happens is, as a reactionary measure, companies the companies increase the cost of things, and therefore the cost of living goes up. And so you're always playing this constant game in which you increase the minimum wage, and then cost of living goes up. Increase minimum wage, cost of living goes up. And I was thinking that might not always be the case. And what I used as an example was you can't really use Staples. Staples is not a very good example. And I'm not talking about the company, but Staples, things you need to buy all the time: toilet paper, milk, eggs, cheese, not,
Coffee.
yeah, coffee for some people. Things that you have, cigarettes in your case, things that you are going to buy regardless of what the price is, because you have to buy them. But things like certain electronics, frivolous purchases, not frivolous isn't the word I want to use. It's true. Some purchases are frivolous. Purchases that are made with discretionary purchases.
Not necessary for survival.
Exactly. Uh, while the cost to make that item, let's say there's a cell phone that costs me $100 to make, and I sell it for $200 before the increase, and assuming that we make it here in the United States, and so it's all people who would be affected by the increase in the minimum wage. So they increase the minimum wage. Now this $100 cell phone costs me $125 or $150 to make. Uh,
Wow.
what?
I said, wow, that's man,
That's very expensive. Uh,
it really is.
so as a company, I can either increase the price to offset that, and so I still get my $100 as gross profit for the cell phone, or I can keep it at the $200, keeping in mind that all of the people who now have gotten raises and have more money coming in, I'll be able to sell more of these phones because of it. And so now I only need, while before I made $100 when I sold one, I would make $100 when I sell two or three or four. With an increase in the amount of money that people have for discretionary spending, it's likely or possible that I could sell more of these, and so I would not necessarily have to increase the price. Uh,
Right.
but I don't know enough about economics to know what the kind of ins and outs are with how minimum wage goes up and how cost of living is related to it, or how cost of living goes down and how, because I'm not sure. I do know that I had looked up an article because I'd been hearing this over and over, and I wanted to just kind of confirm that I was hearing it right. That in December of 2012, there was an article that was talking about the fact that um, we had companies, corporate profits they hit a record in as of December of 2012, a record profits for corporate businesses, or for corporate whatever, and yet people are not making record amounts of money. Like, I mean, like as their hourly rate or their salary or whatever. And so it was one of those things where, I kind of feel like these corporations are making lots and lots and lots more money and asking their employees to do more and more work for the same or less pay. And I'm like, well, that seems to be kind of a misalignment with the kind of ideal that I would like to see.
Right, right. But I mean, it's the nature of big business. I mean, things become numbers. I mean, we both work in large enough companies to feel that, that it's rarely tailored to your location. It's a broad reaching generalization. Those are the memos that come down, the policies that happen, because if every store sells two more blah blah blahs every day, then as a company we will make 200 more million this year. And if we can just have them do that in addition to all the other things they do without, adding any hours or anything like that, then we'll just make that 200 million clean. Whatever it is, whatever the scenario is. Um, and it's always going to be kind of like that. It's hard for someone sitting in a boardroom, in wherever, New York, LA, Houston, doesn't really matter, and really know what it's like for you or I to, you know, do our job, to work where we work, what the reality of the situation is, and sort of keeping in touch with that. So those corporate decisions are always going to sort of step on the toes of the little guy, at times. But I think, right now, I mean, obviously, we've been fighting this recession, and, there's still huge unemployment, and then underemployment as a whole, that middle ground, that gray area that doesn't get quite talked about as much.
You have a job, but you are more skilled than the job that you have, or you're not making as much as you should be making.
Right. Like you used to make 60K and now you're, not quite reaching 30,
Right.
you know. But given that, it seems weird to raise the minimum wage because it seems like a nice gesture, and people that are in that bracket of, work where they would, be positively affected as a employee by that raise are probably going to be very happy about that. But the reality of the effect of it, and I don't know much about economics, but it seems like it is going to put additional pressure on companies, and is probably, in the short term at least, going to cost more jobs than that's going to create. And I would rather see, you know, uh, steady job growth, and a healing the economy. And maybe this is a way to make that work, because, I mean, it's basically, I mean, it's a little shy of it, but roughly a 20% increase in minimum wage. So, I mean, I mean, depending on what that is, extrapolate it out, 10% of the country that works for minimum wage. And now that 10% is making 20% more on top of, they were making collectively, $500 million a year or whatever it would be out. I have no idea. So now that 20% on top of that, blah, 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 that's another 100 million, that, is coming in that we're getting to tax, and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe it is, a good move forward and will help the economy. It just seems in the short term, it could probably even take some businesses down. I mean, not giant ones. I don't think Best Buy is going to tank because of it. Um, but some of those middle ground people could, especially if you're talking retail. I manage a restaurant, so a lot of tipped employees, right now it's 4.95. That's what they make an hour. For those that don't know, 4.95 plus tips, because you're considering, it's generally considered the right thing to do to tip your servers, et cetera, delivery drivers, bartenders,
Unless, of course,
taxi
you give
taxi
10% to
drivers.
God.
What's that?
Unless, of course, you give 10% to God. Did you see that picture?
I did, and that's Yeah, I've worked in restaurants a long time, and a lot of people you meet are great. Every now and again, you do come across, some people, just like any mix of people.
Yeah.
You work with, 100 people over 3 years, and, one of them's just an a-hole, you know. He or she is, they're just an awful person who likes to spew out misery. But you come across, some bad people. But I've had this thought for a long time since I worked at like the entry level position of restaurant work. I always thought you have two choices when it comes to eating out or eating. You can be cheap or you can be lazy, but you don't get the option of being both. So, like, if I want to get a pizza, if I want to be cheap, I need to go pick it up. If I want to be lazy, they can deliver it, but I can no longer be cheap.
Right.
You know, if I want to be cheap and eat a steak, I can cook it at home. If I want to be lazy, I can go out and eat, but I can no longer be cheap.
Right.
It's like you sort of have to and a lot of people I really feel, I mean, because you get people that come in, I've had a lot of employees that come in that when they first start, they really kind of had no idea. They didn't really know how it worked on the side of the server or the delivery driver or the bartender or whatever it is. They don't really understand, that, like now I'm using this as a second job, because I need to pay off my student loans or because, my wife or husband is now underemployed and I need to have the second job, so we can continue to pay our mortgage and, feed our kids and everything, you know. So the reality of it, 4.95. So that would probably go up too, because every time minimum wage has gone up, it goes up for the servers as well.
Okay.
Um,
I have no idea. I don't know what things go on with servers. I was still under the impression they made like two something an hour.
that was what it was like a long, long time ago, but it seems to, I don't know if it's like, like right now, I guess it's a little more than, it's like 60%, give or take, of what minimum wage is. I don't know if there's an exact ratio that goes along with it or if it's just in incremental steps. Either way, I don't remember what my original point was because I went off on my whole little tangent. But as it goes up, if it goes up minimum wage wise, especially in retail where everybody's going to be making that, you know, that jump to a minimum of $10 an hour, your grocery stores, your Best Buys, everything like that, those are the companies that are not going to be able to avoid the hit, you know. I
Right.
mean, a company like Chase, where they probably don't start anybody below $10 an hour, realistically, or at least not significantly. They don't really have a lot of minimum wage positions at a company like that. I have a couple friends that work there, and I mean, I think they start at $10 an hour now, so there'd be a little bit of a hit, but not as much as a Target that probably strives to they probably have a good percentage they want to have at 8.25 an hour,
Well, I mean, I'll
at minimum
say for
wage.
the company that I work for, we start our employees at 8.25, 8.50 an hour at the for the for a service person or a customer or like a register, something like that.
Yeah, the entry levels.
Yeah, yeah, the beginning kind of spots. Um, but you had said about being a waiter and the the pay based on and tips, and I liked your lazy versus cheap. But pretty decent balance between the two of those would be like a golden corral where you can sort of be lazy because you don't have to make any of the food and it's not that expensive. So it is definitely more expensive than like a McDonald's or something, or going to your local supermarket and getting a frozen pizza. But it's not as bad. But I thought about that, and then you brought up the tipping thing. For the longest time, I didn't know that you were supposed to tip at places like that. Like I
Yeah,
I thought that the price of everything was included. Like I thought that all of the servers made minimum wage at least. I didn't know that they were also subsequent. They also were supposed to have tips included in part of their thing. And so, like for the longest time, my wife and I always used to eat out at those places and never leave a tip because I never thought you had to.
right.
Now, whenever we go through, I'll have them charge an additional amount on the credit card and give it to me in cash so that I can still determine based on because I that was the thing I always hated. I didn't want to like say, yeah, I'll put a tip on my card for $4 or $5, and then I get bad service, and I'm like, I wouldn't have given them $4 or $5. I saw them once when I sat down, type.
Right.
Um, but now the way I normally look at it is, and maybe this is bad. Maybe you can educate me on this. The way I look at it is, I give them $1 for each person who's at the table. Like
Like in a normal restaurant, we're talking
no,
like a Chili's, an Olive Garden.
not for like a Golden Corral where they clear.
Yeah, I've never eaten at Golden Corral, so I don't know how that works.
Oh,
Is that kind of like Old Country Buffet?
it's exactly like it. They clear your plates.
Okay.
They might bring you Golden Corral. They bring you your drinks completely. At Old Country Buffet, you go and get them yourself. Sometimes they'll get them for you, depending on how busy they are. But at Golden Corral, they actually bring you your drinks. But it drives me crazy when when I go to a buffet and I have to wait for the server to get me my drink because
Right.
I'm thirsty now. I want my drink now. I'm hungry now. I'm gonna go get my food. If I'm thirsty, I gotta wait for you to bring me my drink.
Yeah, I mean, for a situation like that, I don't know. I've eaten at Old Country Buffet once, and it was probably 15 plus years ago. Never eaten at Golden Corral, so I would actually have to do some research on what that might be reasonable. I would guess that in that situation, they probably do make minimum wage.
They do. They do. I have actually
Okay,
looked it up. They don't make minimum wage. They do make like the $4 or $5 an hour. But they wait on a lot more tables because they don't have to take your order. All they really have to do is show up, say, "Hey, my name is Joe," or you know, whatever, and and get you your drinks.
right.
And then make sure they keep refilling your drinks and they clear your table. They keep the plates as you finish, take them off. But you go get your own plate, you go get your own food, all that type of stuff. And so the way I look at it is when me, my wife, and our kids go out to eat, I leave them $4 in tip, $3 if I feel like I had to wait too long for my drink.
Right. Well, when a normal restaurant, like not the buffet style like we're talking about, 15% is a good place to start. And then service dictates plus or minus, you know. I would never just completely stiff a server. No one can get me down that far. But you really have to, because I mean, I'm very understanding. If it's really busy and things take a long time, but you're sincere when you came to the table, like it's not going to affect your tip. It's a crazy night. It happens sometimes, and I've been there. I've been on your side of that fence.
Right.
But yeah, like 15% to start. It didn't go up. I mean, fantastic service with like true interaction. Some people can really pull that out that are just personable people, and some people really feel like they're kind of lip syncing their way through it, or some people just don't care, and there's a plus minus there. And delivery drivers, my advice to anyone who's listening, find out how far away the place you order from actually is from your house, because that makes a big difference. If you're like right around the corner, a few bucks, 3, $4 is a good tip. If you're, 20 minutes away, take that into account. All the gas they're spending, if they for some reason get you as a single, which is when you just take one delivery. So, I mean, 20 minutes would be really far for most delivery areas, but it's possible. So if you think about that, even 15 minutes, that means that a half hour they're going to spend going there and coming back, possibly just with your delivery. I mean, and that's the thing that I take into account when it comes to, I delivered pizzas for a while, so I'm over generous. I would tip even if they're right around the corner. I would tip more than the $3, $4. But as a delivery driver, if I have drive a couple blocks and get $3, I'm very happy. Like you're a great customer for me. If I have a long drive that it's like you want to, sometimes you do that and you get $3 and it's like, man, that's frustrating. It's like, it's a wash with gas pretty much.
Right.
I delivered your pizza for free today because you only gave me the $3, which is, I mean, tipping is optional, but that's my 2 cents for anyone who's listening as far as tipping goes.
Yeah, and keep in mind that you can hate or not, you can hate or love the fact that there's the delivery charge on the thing, but the drivers don't get any of that.
That varies. That
Oh,
varies.
really? Does it?
Some places give it all to the driver. Some give part to the driver. I never worked for a company that gave none to the driver, but I'm sure they're out there. They got to be out there. I don't know why, because you have to carry insurance as a company who has delivery drivers.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Um, it's like anything. You know what I mean?
Well, I do know,
There's
like, I delivered pizzas for a while myself years ago. But both times I worked at companies that didn't charge delivery charges.
right.
Obviously, this was years and years ago, so it was more common back then. But me personally, I I I do not get stuff delivered. I don't. I will always drive there. Like it could be. We had a pretty bad ice storm here just recently,
Right. Right.
and I drove to go get for two reasons. One, I hate paying extra for something that I could easily do because the way I look at it is, do I want to pay somebody $4 or $5 to drive over to my house, or would I rather keep that money and think to myself, I'm basically paying myself $4 to $5 to drive there myself? And so for me, it's a no brainer. I'll just drive there. But yeah, it was a bad snowstorm, a bad ice storm because I came out of their parking lot and there's a big hill and I just kind of slid down the hill into a red light. Like I had to drive my car into um, the curb at like 180 90-degree angle along the curb in order to keep myself from going out into the intersection.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, like, I will never pay for delivery charges.
I will get delivery. I mean, if I work a long day at work, I mean, because I think part of it is because I work in the restaurant industry. It's like I don't know. That's why I like to get food, but I don't like to go to restaurants. I mean, I will go to restaurants and I will enjoy it when I go, but I go very rarely because you can't turn it off. It's like I bet if you walk into, you know, a retail establishment similar to your own, you notice things right away.
Yes,
You know,
I will walk to see what they have on their end caps. What are they promoting? What kind of area are they in? What are their customers like that they have here? What's on sale? Yeah, I do that everywhere. And then
right.
I'll walk through aisles and fix things that are pushed back and I adjust things that are hanging on pegs so that it's nice and neat. My wife yells at me for that.
Hoping you get some good karma and someone walks through one of your aisles and does the same for you someday.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, and I see the whole, like when I'm sitting at a restaurant, like I feel like I see everything. From the moment I walk in the door, I am critiquing because that's my job,
Yeah, right.
like when I'm working, that's what I'm always doing. Like, is the host opening the door? Are they smiling? Are they interacting? Blah, 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 blah. Does that table need this? And you look around and you see it, and I feel like I'm partially at work whenever I go out to a restaurant. But
Well,
I like getting delivery. I like coming home from work, relaxing, have someone else make my food, have someone else bring it to me, and it's totally worth the extra money for me to get it delivered, for my personal enjoyment.
but yeah, I'm also the person who'll stop and pick up a penny. So,
It's true. It's true.
all right. Anyway, I think we've gone over our time and filled this two parts with plenty of useless information like Taco Cat or Cat Taco.
No, it's Taco Cat.
Is it taco? It is taco.
It's Taco Cat.
Whatever it is.
You forgot already. That was just 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
So I think we can definitely wrap up here and say goodbye to everybody. We have one more live show that we'll be doing next week, and then I go on vacation. You guys get caught up on all of the episodes that we've been referencing.
And trying not to spoil.
Yeah, so you guys will get those, and then we'll be back, and we'll go from there. As always, please like the post, like the video, comment. Please share it with people if you like it. Please share it with people you think might be interested in it. Invite people to the Facebook group. If you don't like it, something you didn't agree with, something you had a question about, please feel free to comment, to email us, to send us a message, any of those things. You got a topic idea, you're interested in being a guest, all of those things are things we want to hear from you guys. We are always looking for guests with great topic ideas who want to come on and share their thoughts. And so please keep that in mind, guys, okay? I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to James to kind of wrap up for us.
I'm not sure if I have a solid wrap up for today. Today, I guess, was the episode of Unexpected Tangents that led us to interesting places. But anyways, as always, thanks everybody for listening. We definitely appreciate it. And like Justin said, any feedback, information, compliments, complaints, or volunteers to come on and tangent with us are more than welcome. So shoot us an email, comment on a post, hit one of us up on Facebook. No matter what happens, I hope you all had a fantastic Valentine's Day. And I hope you all have a good month and we don't see any more snow before this winter's over. Either way, have a good day or night whenever you're listening.